What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on in. It's 1TS Daily live right here at One True Sport. How's it going? I'm your host, Zack Heydorn from Brash Ring Media and from Sports Illustrated. Pumped to be here. I am on the road again. It is Tuesday, so this is my usual road day. But yesterday was also on the road because it's a weird day, a weird week already. Thanks so much for being here. If you're tuning in on YouTube, hello. If you are watching us on Twitter, hello to you too. Thanks so much for joining the show. Thanks so much for being here. Certainly appreciate it, and certainly thank you for taking the time to listen and hit play. If it's your first time checking out the show, this is 1TS Daily. We're live on the One True Sport YouTube channel every single day, 11 Eastern, talking to you about the news in professional wrestling. We're reviewing shows, we're previewing shows, we're talking about the dirt sheets, we're talking about pro wrestling. So I try to make the show just a quick 25, 30 minutes where we can hang out, discuss wrestling, and then you can get on with your day, because I know that that's obviously an important element here. So that's the goal, that's the plan. If you are watching now and you haven't subscribed to the One True Sport YouTube channel, please do. We got lots of stuff going up there on a daily basis, and so you're not going to want to miss it, and some exciting news to hit there soon, I think. So it'll be very exciting to share that with you when the time comes. But needless to say, hit subscribe. And if you're watching this on YouTube right now and you're able to hit like, or you like the video, hit like and help us out. It helps us out greatly, and helps us grow the show, helps us get it in front of more eyes. And that's always a good thing. That's always a good thing, because we want to keep this train on the track and keep things rolling. Okay, today we've got a lot to discuss. We are going to talk last night's episode of Monday Night Raw quite a bit. We are going to talk about the news of the morning, which is WWE ID, which I will get to here to kick things off in a minute. And we'll also talk tonight's episode of NXT and what to expect there coming out of Halloween Havoc. All that and your comments and your questions and whatever else you want to get off your chest, we'll talk about that too. I have the live chat open for you to do that. If you want to drop in a question of something you want us to cover on this week's show, I hope you do. If you want us to if you want to rant about a point, or you want to push back on a point that I'm making, perhaps, use that live chat. It's really the funnest part of this show as we near 100 episodes is kind of interacting with you guys and engaging with you guys and going back and forth. So get on in there. Some people are already loaded in. Thanks so much for being here, guys. We also have super chats available if you're willing to make a financial contribution to the show. I think we certainly would love that. I certainly would love that. It certainly helps. And so thank you in advance for that. We will make sure to get to all super chats on this show without question. So if you want to make sure that your comment or question gets read, drop a super chat in there, lead this conversation with that, and we will and we'll get going on those right out of the gate. Cool. All right. Let's start first, before we get into Raw, talking about WWE ID, which is something that the company announced this morning via press release. We're covering it at Sports Illustrated. Pretty much everybody is. Interesting idea, an interesting program for WWE. Basically, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, but basically the WWE ID program is a way for independent wrestling promotions to officially affiliate with WWE. So they will have a special affiliation tag. They will work, in conjunction with WWE, almost as, the minor leagues, perhaps. I think is a decent way to put it. And we'll get support in terms of promotion, in terms of resources, and lots of other perks for being kind of a WWE ID member ID, kind of meaning independent. In addition to that, WWE will also ID and put a similar tag on independent wrestlers that they deem it appropriate for. So prospects or key talents that they're interested in, they will have that WWE ID as well, and WWE will help them. Just like the independent companies, they will help them from the standpoint of financial, from the standpoint of training resources at the WWE Performance Center, and so much more. So this is WWE's attempt to continue growing their talent pool. Paul Levesque has not shied away from just outright saying the importance of talent to WWE. I mean, they have to have talent in the pipeline all the time. And, they've done a pretty nice job diversifying where that talent mix comes from. I mean, when you look at like who the top people are in the company right now, you got a bunch of them. Roman Reigns. You've got Roman Reigns. You've got the Usos. That crop of talent is just totally 100% WWE produced. But then you have Sami Zayn. You've got Kevin Owens. You've got CM Punk. You've got Drew McIntyre and others that have had experiences outside of WWE, came up through the independents or an AEW or what have you. So they're pretty diversified as far as like where the talent comes from. They have obviously a pipeline of talent with the WWE NIL program and who they scout to come in to the Performance Center. So that's one arm there. And now they've got this arm too, which is going to open up possibilities to get their eyes on potential new talent. So this is a good thing for WWE, certainly, or else they wouldn't be doing it. I also think it's a good thing for independent talent. Look, being an independent wrestler is not an easy job by any stretch of the imagination. It's tough. It is a grind. It is a grind that is not fruitfully financial for a lot of folks. Hopefully, not everybody is going to get this WWE ID tag. We know this, but the people that do, hopefully, will get increased benefits, and they have something to shoot. Independent wrestlers have something to shoot for if going to WWE is something that's important to them. So, it's good for independent wrestlers, and any avenue that they have to grow their income and make professional wrestling a viable career as early as possible is a good thing. So it's good for them too. Obviously, I think it's good for the indie promotions that are involved in this to some extent. When you're involved with WWE, there's going to be an inherent control that you give up. I'd imagine, you're not really independent anymore in like the truest sense of the word. But that's okay in some instances, because again, it provides a better foundation for independent wrestlers to work on. So yes, I think the promotions that are involved in this right now will sacrifice some, will sacrifice some control, over what they do. Same thing with the wrestling schools that are involved in this. It's just, I think that there's an element of, if you're an independent wrestling school, you teach things your way and you go. And I just think if WWE is going to plant their flag in some of these independent promotions, they're going to want to know that, or independent promotions and schools, they're going to want to know that the style being taught there is style that they can use later on, right? I mean, that's part of this. So, yeah, I think independent wrestling companies involved in this and schools involved in this will be a bit overrun by WWE and the system. And I think what makes independent wrestling really fun is that you get a mix of styles. You get a mix of teachers. You get a mix of coaches out there, a mix of trainees. And look, the more you water that down with WWE hands on it all, that is a thing, and that does change the game a bit. But that's reality. But the other side of the coin is the reality is that this is really good for the wrestlers, and I think that that's important too, as important, if not more important. So we need to keep that in mind. So we'll watch and see some key promotions right now that are involved in this on WWE's like WWE ID list. Booker T's promotion, Cody Rhodes' promotion, and school. Seth Rollins is the Black and Brave Academy involved in this as well, and so that's just a few. There's a couple more, but you can check out the work or coverage of this in Sports Illustrated if you want more. And I probably will have a feature column up about this on Brass Ring Media here in the next 24 hours that you guys can check out. So definitely encourage you to do that. But it's an interesting story, and it's an interesting, like kind of territory for WWE to try to conquer again. So that's the big news of the day. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of this? Issues? Problems? Is this good for the wrestling business in your eyes? Is it bad? Is it WWE just trying to control as much as they possibly can? There's no benefit. Drop a super chat or a live chat and conversation going on this. What's up, Sean? Sean says, "Hey, what's up, Zach? What's up, Sean? Thanks for being here, man. I feel like it's been a bit. I feel like I haven't seen you in a live show in a while. So thanks, man. Glad you're here. What'd you think of Raw last night?" Let's get into Raw last night. Right hand Cam here says Raw last night was an 8 out of 10. I liked it too. I liked Raw last night too. I mean, it flew by. Like Raw these days just cruises by because of the 2-hour flip and like the switch from 3 to 2 hours. It's wild just how much faster that show goes by. But yeah, I like the show too. I mean, they were going up against some very heavy competition. World Series game in New York, with LA. You had the Giants and the Steelers playing each other on Monday Night Football. Like, whoo boy, like it just was it was just wild in terms of the competition. But I thought WWE did enough to kind of like put forth a good show, knowing the reality of those circumstances. They definitely used Raw this week as a launching pad to continue the Bloodline story. That was a clear, effort on WWE's part to just, hey, give something huge here, and that's, that was the Bloodline developments, and we'll start there. So the show starts with what I thought was a pretty good recap of the happenings of the last week in WWE. I mean, they tied the WWE Intercontinental Championship title change last week on Raw right in with like the Jey Uso storyline with Jimmy Uso and the Bloodline, and I thought that was key because it really is kind of a very similar story. So that worked for me, and they just continue to do really good jobs on those video packages. I mean, like nobody does it better than them right now as far as that goes. But where I have some mixed feelings though is Jey and Jimmy specifically. Like I liked out of the gate that Jey calls out Jimmy and the Bloodline straight up and goes, "Hey, look, I left the Bloodline and I left the family and I achieved a lot on my own. I became Intercontinental Champion and I, was successful." But then like he kind of like goes back on that and says, "But none of that is as important as being brothers with you." And so while I think that that's like, very kind and sweet and all that, it kind of seemed like Jey pivoted awfully fast, given all that the Bloodline has done to him throughout the years. Like, I would have liked to have seen not Jey like hem and haw, but just take a little bit longer to get there. I think it gives Jey more credibility to not just completely buy in to what his brother's selling him right out of the gate. Yes, Jey wants retribution against the new Bloodline, and that's a big part of this. But Jey and him were doing battle, like not even what is it? It's November, so like 7 months ago. Like it's not like this was like a 2-year thing. It just happened, and I think you could have gotten more out of it. And I think like the pop for them reuniting, had you taken your time a little bit there, would have been even bigger. I don't think it's something that derails it because there's clearly still tension between Jay and Jimmy, and that's certainly to be elevated. When Jay goes face to face with Roman Reigns to kind of get back on the same page with him, but I do think that they rushed this a little bit. And then you had Sami Zayn get involved, and that that was interesting too. Like, and again, I'm mixed on that as well in terms of how they did that. On one hand, it's like, okay, they went there. Sami Zayn is now involved in this, but on the other hand, it's like we're back right where we were. Like, I mean, I thought that Sammy, and especially with Jay, kind of is family already. Jay says that he's not, but I mean, the whole thing with Sammy and the bloodline was like him becoming part of the bloodline, part of the family. And as far as Jay is concerned, like, to me, that should have been kind of inherent that no, Sammy gets it. Sammy does understand that he's like the one unique guy that would understand the situation at hand. And they went a different direction. And I think they went there so that they could have tension, so that you could do the angle with Solo Sikoa and at the near the end of the show, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think it would have made more sense if Sammy's almost like the voice of reason for Jay. Like, to me, that's more in line with what we've seen so far with the bloodline and with Sammy and with Jay in particular. So again, I thought it was good. I thought everybody did well, and I thought it was entertaining. It just was a little out of character for Jay at this point, pertaining to Sammy specifically, the guy who's had his back this whole time. So we'll see where this goes. We got some notes on this in the chat that I want to make sure we get to. Sean says, yeah, it's been busy, but Raw was good. Need to have an explanation for Sammy talking to Solo. Yes, we do. I'll get to that in a second. Thanks, Sean. Anthony's in here and says, I don't think Sammy is joining back up with the bloodline, to be honest, like most people are thinking. I think this is family business, and they either bring in Zilifatu or Cola from ROW. I don't. I mean, Zilifatu is obviously an interesting, piece of a puzzle here. But look. I think Anthony, they're clearly building towards a 4-on-4 Bloodline versus Bloodline War Games match at Survivor Series, and that's Sami Zayn, and that's Sami Zayn, that's Jimmy and Jey Uso, and that's Roman Reigns against the new Bloodline. Like, that's what they're building up to. So, and I don't think Zilla, I don't think he has a place in that yet. Maybe in the future, but Sammy has to play a role in this. I mean, he was such a key piece of the bloodline that, like, it only makes sense for him to come back in at some point and make an impact, and help his family. So I think it would be weird and odd not to have him in that, frankly. So yeah, I mean, agree to disagree on that one. We'll see what happens, but I think he's definitely coming back. Andrew H is, or Sean says here, it was quicker than I was expecting in regards to Jimmy and Jay getting back together. And Andrew H says, effing Yankees. Yeah, come on, Yankees, get it together. I want to watch more baseball. I don't want baseball season to be over yet. Like, let's get a W. We need a game 5. None of this sweep business. And I don't have a horse in this race. I just want to watch good baseball. So come on, Yankees, pick it up for Andrew, pick it up for me. So let's talk about, here, Anthony's got another comment here in response to me. Anthony says, the reason why I'm saying it's family business is how they've been setting it up, and that there's friction between Roman and Rock and a few to see who is the head of the Samoan dynasty. Yeah, that is, I mean, that's like the overarching storyline. No question. Like, that is what it is, but there's like other like offshoot storylines to that kind of roll up to that one, and I think this is one of them. And Sami, I think Sami's a part of that. And then we'll see. I mean, again, agree to disagree. I mean, it's just a matter of preference. But when I read the tea leaves, that's what I think is at play here. Got Andrew Ben in the chat goes, "Sup, Zach? What is pro wrestling fire in 2024?" Not sure I understand the question, Andrew. Kind of clarify. Happy to answer, but just kind of clarify what you mean. What is pro wrestling? Like what's on fire? Like what's hot right now? Is that what you're looking for? Happy to answer that. But drop a follow up in there. Thanks a lot for joining us live. Glad you were able to do that, Andrew. Appreciate you participating. Okay, so we had the Sami and Solo chat. This is like straight out of a soap opera, right? I mean, it's straight out of, just regular soap operas. You got Sami coming across as somebody who's cheating on Jay, right? And cheating on his buddy. Nothing is obviously going to come to this. Like, obviously to me, it's like Solo, and I think Sean mentions this up here in the chat. He says, "I'm assuming Solo came to him." Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to be at play here. Like, hey, Sami or Solo telling Sami, like, "Look, Sami, you're not a part of that family, but you can be a part of ours. You can be a part of this bloodline." I think that's more so what we're going to see, and I think Sami overall is maybe going to hem and haw about that and see, but eventually go with his guys. I don't think Sami Zayn can do too much hemming and hawing here. I mean, this isn't like before where like Sami's like was a heel and a bad guy and now he's like turning good. He's been a good guy. We know that about him now. So he's got to like come out firm against the new bloodline at some point. But I think that's what they're setting up. Candy's in the chat and says, "Do you think Sami will join the Solo bloodline?" No, I don't. I mean, I think he's definitely sticking with Roman, Jimmy, and Jay. Like that's the only logical way this can go. If it goes the other way, I mean, it goes that way just for the sake of going that way, and I don't think that's ever, a good thing for WWE. Andrew clarifying the question. He says, "No, the unexpected things, Zach. The atmosphere of pro wrestling is nuts right now." Yeah, overall, I mean, boy, you're not kidding. I mean, you've got 2 national promotions. I mean, that always helps. But you got TNA that's kind of riding a hot wave. WWE riding a hot wave. WrestleMania tickets on sale. I wrote a piece for Brass Ring Media, our Substack newsletter there, which you can subscribe to for free. And I hope that you do. Just search Brass Ring Media Substack and sign up for all my written work. The ticket prices for WrestleMania are just insane. Just complete insanity. $1,100 just to get in the building right now. It's crazy, but they're gonna. It's too much. It's too arrogant, and I read all about that for Brass Ring Media. But the fact that WWE believes incorrectly that they can sell out building at those prices is wild. I think that speaks exactly what you're talking about. It's the atmosphere of pro wrestling. It's crazy. It's making a lot of people a lot of money. So thanks, Andrew. Okay, other happenings on Raw. We had Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. Pretty nice brawl segment there. I don't know how much more brawling, the Bronson Reed character can do. Like, yes, that's what gets him over. I mean, in a big way. But he has to have more depth than just like, I'm this crazy brawling guy. Eventually. I mean, like we saw with Braun Strowman when Braun Strowman was coming up. Remember that he would do all those like kind of like stunt, all those like stunt spots. That worked to like get him over, and then you had to like go back to something else, and Strowman didn't really have it at that point. You want Bronson Reed to have more than just these brawls, and so while I think yesterday's was effective, and I think that like the feud isn't really him and Rollins, like their storyline and their feud isn't really built on anything else. Like it's just built pretty much on just kind of wild brawls. They gotta add something into the mix with Bronson Reed. I think he's too good. I think he's proven himself here. And I think he's should have earned the opportunity to get a little bit more out of out of himself and cut a promo on TV and be a monster, but also be not just a monster, and that's key. You want to have levels and depth to your character, and Reed doesn't, but I think he can, and I think he can effectively. As Sean says here, brawling is cool, but it's overdone. Right? Yeah, exactly. My point exactly. Well said. In regards to WrestleMania ticket prices, Andrew H says here, they will sell out Mania at those prices. Mania is a destination. They are the standard in pro wrestling. Oh, without question. I mean, as I said, they'll sell out. I think they'll sell out Mania at those prices, but there's diminishing returns eventually. Like eventually they won't. You're not going to be able to charge $5,000 for WrestleMania tickets in 2 years. Eventually they won't. So when is enough enough? And when do you hold ticket prices so that you don't have, kind of disappointed fans who want to go to these shows and can't? You don't want this to become the Super Bowl. I mean, WWE calls it their Super Bowl, but you don't want WrestleMania to be a Super Bowl that it costs, $7,000 to go to the show. When you do that, you will have a crowd like the Super Bowl, and Super Bowl crowds stink. They just do, because there's not a lot of just true fans of the teams of sports can go to that. And the same thing will happen with WrestleMania eventually. Now, I mean, I guess if you're WWE and you can sell that out at huge prices like the Super Bowl, okay. But WrestleMania is not the Super Bowl, or it shouldn't be. And I think, I just think that they got to be careful. They got to be careful. They're not at that. The bubble hasn't popped yet, but we're not. I don't think they were too far away. Andrew says, "Yeah, I've been saving for a year. I'm going to Nashville." Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, you got to get to saving. If you want, if you want to go to WrestleMania now, it's like, boy, it's an endeavor, especially if you're going to go with your family and you have kids who like wrestling or what have you. It really gets up there. I talk about this in my column. So hopefully you guys go and check that out. Brass Ring Media, Substack. It's our newsletter. Check it out. All right. We'll wrap up talking about NXT this week. We got the fall off from Halloween Havoc. I'm looking at a couple things key here. What do they do with Ridge Holland? And how much is Bubba Ray Dudley going to be involved in what they do at the ECW arena next week on the show? My guess is we're going to see Ridge Holland against Bubba Ray Dudley. I just think that's like a yawner of a match, to be frank. Really? Bubba Ray? I mean, we talked about this yesterday. It's just okay, blah. Now, it also seems like Ridge Holland is going to be in line for an NXT championship match. So if they do it right, and in the ECW arena, you can have Ridge Holland beat Bubba in front of that kind of ECW audience, if that's even a thing anymore. Okay, there's some value there. There's some heat there. I'm willing to play that out. But if Bubba Ray Dudley gets any kind of momentum at all, out of this, it's just a laughable idea and concept. So I'm watching what they do with Ridge Holland. I'm watching what they do with Bubba this week, going into next week's show at the ECW arena in Philadelphia. Also this week, looking to see what they do with Zarya. She, is kind of reared her head into all the top angles of the women's division in NXT. She's involved in the NXT North American Championship picture on the women's side with Fallon Henley. She has made her appearance known in front of Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade and Julia and Stephanie Vaquer. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play that up and which way she ultimately lands. I don't know at this point which way they go. It seems to me that it makes more sense for her to kind of be in that North American Championship picture. But she's a pretty good star and pretty big talent, and I just don't know that she could stay down there very long. And like, she very much, like, to me, has a different presence and aura than, Fallon Henley. All respect to her. It's just a whole different ball game between those two. So we'll see. We'll see where they go on that. But those are the two things I'm watching. We'll review NXT tomorrow right here on 1TS Daily. Cool? Cool. All right, guys. What a fun show. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for everybody for being here. If you can, before you log off, hit that like button. Certainly would appreciate it. Thank you in advance. Thanks to all the chatting from Sean and Andrew H. And who am I forgetting here? Candy and Anthony and everybody else who joined in. Thank you so much. We're live right here with 1TS Daily. It's a daily show, hence the name, on One True Sport. So be here. Plan on being here. Also, check out my work at Brash Ring Media. Like I said, we've got written work on the Substack newsletter that goes up every day. Every day, fresh written content, top shelf professional wrestling analysis, long form. Check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. Right now, subscribe. Just search Brash Ring Media Substack in your Google machine, and that will come up. Subscribe, and you're done. Totally free to do that. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a wonderful, wonderful Tuesday. We'll catch y'all tomorrow right here at 1TS Daily at One True Sport. I'm Zack Heydorn. See you later.